Hello everybody, Reggie Time here with the second of what's going to be 3 or 4 episodes of Poker is Boring. I'm not sure how many episodes it's going to be yet because I don't want to go to town on this. I don't want to spend like a bunch of time doing it. And I don't necessarily think it's something that tons of players will benefit from, but I think it's a nice mini-series to have in my catalogue. And the premise of the series is just to encourage players that have a long history of losing at poker just to tighten up their game, play tighter ranges pre-flop, and hopefully still demonstrate that despite playing tight pre-flop, we can still get lots of value post-flop. The quicker we can demonstrate that, the better, then we can get back onto making other videos. But yeah, if you are a long-term losing player, or you're a new player that's finding it hard and you're losing constantly, then this video is going to be good for you, because hopefully it's going to demonstrate that we can play much tighter ranges and still make it pay. And even if you're playing much tighter ranges and still not quite making it pay, you're almost certainly going to slow down your losses whilst you're learning. Poker is not a game that when you start playing, it costs you money to learn. You've got to pay for your apprenticeship. It's like you've got to pay your tuition fee, so to speak. So if we can keep those tuition fees down by just playing a little bit tighter in the early stages till we get more to grips with the game mechanics, or get more to grips with how the games play on the site that you're playing, and you start getting more reads on your opponents, all those things. If you can do that and like save money by playing a little bit tighter at the start, it's a good idea. If you've been losing for a long time, it's never a bad idea to just tighten up and give your tight game a good bit of spit and polish. And then once you start winning with your tight game, if you want to, then start to expand into a looser game again. But what I try to demonstrate here is that just playing tight, you can still play tight and still play good winning poker. So you're going to see me making quite a lot of folds you wouldn't make. I'm going to respect 3-bets massively. I'm going to fold to tons of 3-bets. I'm not going to be stealing super wide from the small blind or from the button. I'm not going to be defending super wide versus 3x opens. Things like that. You're going to see me just hopefully play a really tight, solid game. So please don't bother pointing out to me, oh, you should have opened X, Y, and Z from these positions, because normally I would. Or normally maybe I would have in some of the situations have opened them, but this isn't the premise, or this isn't the purpose of this series, so therefore I'm going to be making some very disciplined folds. Right, let's get stuck in. I'll probably pause the video actually until we actually get dealt into some hands. Small c-bet with the 2 kings. Pretty hard for him to have too much. So just kind of bet small, hope just keep him in the pot with whatever. Turns a complete brick. But now he's called the flop. It's kind of an indication that he has a little piece of the board. So we're going to make a larger bet for value on the turn. And the 8 of diamonds is a pretty unpleasant river to face. It does give him lots of 2 pairs with his 9-8s, Jack-8s, complete some straights, etc. And we're just going to fold this river. It's just super unlikely we have the best hand when he goes like check call, bet this particular river. It's a dreadful river for us. I didn't like it. As soon as it fell, I was thinking I do not like the river. I was hoping it would just be able to go check. Now he's potted it, we're just going to fold. I think paying off there long term would be hemorrhaging money in these games, in the microstates games. And you're just so likely it's just that river's improved him in some way, whether to a straight or to 2 pairs. Like there we go again, he's limping the button. So he's clearly quite a passive player. So when passive players wake up and just start hitting the pot button, usually a good time just to get the hell out of the way. Again, see, he's limping again. We're going to be able to make plenty of money from this player, and there's no rush to do it. Well, there's a rush in terms of like there's a race to stack him. But because this guy's pretty likely to leave this table with 0 chips unless he just has somewhere to go and leaves early. There's no need to rush into just paying him off when we just have like the 1 pair. Looks like he's going to be playing almost 100% of hands. Sorry for pausing the video there, that we just took the hand down with the 7s that we raised. I've still got quite an annoying sneeze. I'm not sure if it's hay fever. I've never really suffered with hay fever before, but it could just be something in the air. Or I might just have a small cold that hasn't really totally like presented itself yet. But either way, I'm doing some sneezing. As tight as we are playing Queen 10 offsuit, is still a completely standard open from the small blind. Excuse me, coughing too. Everything's going wrong with my whatever you'd call it. Don't know. Lungs, would you say? Don't know. Going to be 3-betting the ace queen. We're out of position, so we're going to make it 4 times his open. He calls, we get pretty poor flop, and now we're just going to give up. Turn the ace, but to club, not ideal for us. Just going to check. Probably call a small bet, fold to a large bet. And again, we're still just in get our hand to showdown mode. Wow, so we've faced a 3-bet and then a call 4-bet shove here. We have ace queen. 7-9 suited. That's interesting to know. Obviously we wouldn't have folded to the 7-9, but when the called 4-bet goes in 2, ace queen is not in the best of shape, and if we call and then he was to come back over the top again, it's a problem. If we 5-bet and he goes all, it's a problem. It's just a rough spot. Let's just set the passive option. We would have won the pot, but we would have been behind pre-flop, so no problem with how I played the hand. So we bet small on the flop on table 2 with the ace queen. We miss, we bet the turn when we hit. This time he's leading the river, but tons and tons of draws have missed here. Yeah, 4-5 was already there. This is one that I am going to look up because there's like lots of draws, missed spade draws, etc. Yeah, you can have some 2 pairs and things. We could be beat here, but we're going to look it up. And he literally did river the ace 8, which is unfortunate, but never mind. Actually going to check back this turn with the ace 9 and then just go for a small river value bet. Hopefully we get, well, who knows what we get called by actually, because our hand is actually aces and queens with the 9 kicker, so we're actually still behind to like bigger aces, but we'll still go for the small value bet. And we did get picked up by the 9. So like the difference between calling this pot size bet on table 2 and like not calling with the kings earlier needs to be explained. With the kings earlier, all the draws completed and he bet pot into us, which means his range is going to be much stronger. He's going to have way more like better hands in his range. This time, on the other hand, when he on this table, when all the draws missed, his range is like much more polarized to like missed draws or hands that have us crushed. So when people have got a polarized range, we can like bluff catch way more against them. When they have like an depolarized range, where they can have lots of other like 2 pairs that have got there, this and we can just have like way more value hands and not as many bluffs. I prefer to personally go for the check fold. When they can have like, when they basically either got a super strong hand or a super weak hand, I actually quite like bluff catching a lot of the time. So that's why the difference between calling one pot size bet and not calling the other pot size bet. I'm going to fold here with the top pair, no kicker. Don't think I played that ace-8 hand particularly well. I was too busy talking about the other stuff. Not happy how I played that. I could like to go back and look at it again and think about how I could have done it differently. I have to call once here with bottom pair. I don't like it very much, but putting bottom pair to like 1/2 pot C bet probably isn't going to be a good idea. I'm going to fold if he barrels the turn. Which he does. Again, I'm not convinced by his sizing, but not an awful lot I can do about it. So we've kind of been unfortunate so far that the 2 biggest hands we've had, we've kind of just not run good with them. That's going to happen, of course. What can we do? It's not enough just to be like, good at poker. You need to run good too, and it's really important that you understand that reacting and changing your strategy based on like a few short-term results. So say, for example, you think to yourself, "I'm going to try this strategy that Reggie's recommending. I'm going to try playing tight," and then for 2 sessions in a row, you still don't win. It's really important that you don't just abandon the strategy and just stick with it for a while. Just see how it goes for you. Because if you always like carry on doing what you've always done and never really change anything, you know you're not gonna, your results aren't going to improve. They're just going to magically improve overnight. 10-8 I would normally open this, but we're going to fold it. So do stick at it. If you're a long-term losing player, do please at least try and stick at it for a little while and give me some feedback on how it's worked out for you over like a much longer term, over a week or a couple of weeks or several thousand hands. Completely missed with the 4-5. Don't think that's a good board to see bet. It's fine just to completely give up sometimes. This is one of the times, well, I was about to just completely give up. Now I think we're going to bet twice just to try and get him off like medium to small pocket pairs. Yeah, small on the turn, and we're going to maybe go much bigger on the river if we need to, but we didn't. We just got the bet through. And when he checks twice on those boards, I think we can safely assume he doesn't have like a 2-pair plus type hand, and then look to try and just take him off 1 pair or just high cards that are higher than ours. It's not going to work all the time. Sometimes he's going to turn a weak ace and look you up and you're going to feel a bit like a Burke. But most of the time he's just going to have like 9x that calls turn folds river, or under pairs that just fold now or fold the river, or just like 2 higher cards like 8-7 that's just got us crushed. But obviously can't continue. Or obviously can't call 2 bets. Jack ace offsuit. If it was under the action under the gun at 6-handed table, I could make a case for folding that hand if you're a losing player who struggles playing out of position. But when we're in middle position and we have a fish at the table or potential fish at the table and scrambler, so we should definitely open it. We can't afford the pocket nines to a 3-bet blind versus blind. I think 4-betting and getting in wouldn't be great either, so we'll call and take a flop. Not a good flop for us. In the meantime, we flop a good shot, 2 overs and a backdoor flush draw on table 2, so he's going to start by c-betting. When he checks back here, you can have ace queen, ace jack, pocket jacks, all hands that are still beating us that want to check back, so we're not going to just stab versus it. We're going to give up now with the ace king on that 8 of spades, which is a pretty damn bad card for us. And I think we could bluff this river actually. I don't think we need to though. So we're going to check, and we're just going to think about check calling this river. You actually have the queen 8, wow. I think we have to call this river because he can just have ace jack, ace 10, some random bluffs that knows that we're weak and just like wants to take us off it. We're going to lose a lot here to queen X, and pocket jacks and things, but I think we have to call. He did just have the queen 3, which is whatever, it is what it is. Really don't like his 3-bet. If he's 3-betting queen 3 suited there, he's 3-betting way too wide. 3-betting way too many hands, unless it's just like a random bizarre 3-bet is made. But we just have to call there. Our hand looks exactly like what it is. It just looks like it's a pretty weak made hand, and if we just don't call there, he just gets to bluff us like constantly, which obviously isn't good for us. And we've managed to keep the pot small enough where we can just easily call. Offset mine in here with our 7s. And we flop a set, and beautifully we flop a set on ace high. So we get to hopefully get lots of value from ace X here. I'm going to start by check calling the flop. No reason to raise this flop at all, even though we have a set. The board is just so damn dry that we can't represent anything very much by raising. If there's lots of draws, we could check raise and try and rep some draws too, but as it is, it's just very likely our opponent won't have enough hands that can call a raise. Therefore, we're not going to make one. If he bets again here on the river on the turn, we would have put a very small check raise in. I just don't think he has anything here. I'm going to go for a check raise again. I just think he's weak, but he might try and take us off a hand. No, he just like turns the second pair and decided to check it down, which is fine. He maybe would have called a small river bet there, but I just felt he was like really super weak there, and felt that maybe he would just bet the river in like a last attempt to win the pot where we could raise him rather than just like try and get value from him. Didn't think he had anything that could really call a bet, or not a bet the size of the bet that I wanted to make. This guy's got his 3-betting boots on, which is fine. King 7 off was a bad open anyway. This is not for this. I mean, it's not a bad open in general. It's a fine open, but for the premises of this series, it was a bad open. I should absolutely have folded it. I keep checking with the Queen 10. Kind of just giving up with it on this dry board. And we're going to go really big on this river. And we'll do this with that Jack 10, Jack Queen, that type of thing, maybe. I have to call this tiny 3-bet, don't want to, but we have to because it's just so small. Now we're in check fold territory. Here we're just hoping he looks it up with like 9-8 or something like that, and just gets curious and just thinks, what the fuck. Doesn't, but when he calls twice on that board, he has a made hand of some description, you would imagine, because there just aren't enough draws out there. Queen 9 suited on the button with the fish in the pot. I think we can happily call. We completely brick. You get led into by the fish in a multi-way pot. It's just a super trivial fold. Gonna just keep checking back the 5, see they might be the best hand. We're the best hand. Given how that 3-bet happy this guess I Uno's have been, we're going to call with the jacks here and then look to like back raise if he goes for the squeeze, which he doesn't, but we flop a set anyway, so happy days. Our opponent doesn't c-bet here. Looks like he's probably just giving up. We still need to put some kind of bet in. He calls, we fill up, which is pretty nice. Bet really small again, because again I'm not convinced he has a particularly strong hand. He calls again. Really like that Queen of Spades on the river. It now gives him some flushes, some weaker 2 pairs maybe. Don't think he has Ace Queen very often, of course. But again, we're going to go for the overbet here, and we're going to hope somehow he's got like a small flush that he's been quite gentle with. And again, he just folds. So that's twice. He's like, we probably made him make some pretty weak calls with our small bet sizing on early streets, and then made him fold on the river, which means like we can use that line to bluff against him quite frequently too, which is nice. If he's going to like call, fold with like a decent frequency, then small, big in terms of bet sizing is going to be a nice strategy to use against him. Maybe adjust our value strategy now. Maybe reserve that line more for when we want to bluff him, and maybe now with next time we get a hand against him for value, maybe make like a much smaller of a value bet. And call with the 8-9 suited. Table 2, going to check with our second pair and gut shot on table 3. Going to bet small again on, well, smallish, less than half pot on table 2. Table 1, sorry, with our 2 aces. And check call once here on table 4, try and spike a king or a 10. We do spike a king, which is pretty damn nice. I'm going to lead here just to prevent him checking back with ace X, etc. Get value from flush draws, some ace X, that type of thing. He calls. I'm going to go pretty big on the river. because I would do this with maybe diamonds sometimes. And what have you? So, and he has exactly. Wow, we were in fucking rough shape there, weren't we? Wow, we were in rough shape there. But yeah, I quite often like to lead on turn cards with a lot of my flop check calling range when none of the undercards, like middle or bottom pair, when it pairs the turn. I like to do it with my draws. I like to do it with when I've actually got trips too. I think it's a nice line to have in your arsenal. Because so often people will just check back with worse hands there. You can sometimes make people fall better hands if you've only got a draw. I just think it's a nice line to take. If the ace had paired, obviously I wouldn't have done anything, but with the queen or the jack pairing, I wouldn't have done it there exactly when the queen paired, I don't think, because I had the king. But if I had a flush draw or a queen, I would have led. Obviously, if I have a flush draw of the king when the king pairs, I'm going to lead too. I think it's a nice thing to have because people just play turns so like weakly. If he had like a weak ace there, for example, I think he would check it back. So therefore, he's got a weak ace. We're getting value with our trips. And when he's got an even weaker hand, let's just stab the flop, we can make him fold that when we have the flush draw. So it works both ways. Not say it works perfectly every time, of course it doesn't. Sometimes he folds when we have the trips and we miss value from whatever. And sometimes he calls when we have the flush draw. So it doesn't always work, but overall I just think it's a nice line to have in our arsenal because it works well enough both ways for it to be a nice strategy. And I'm not sure why I'm not topping up at this table. It's quite annoying. We get squeezed. We're just going to have to go with our hand here, I think. You could easily be squeezing because the fish is in the pot. We just have to go with it here. If we get jammed on, we have to cry and call it off. He folds. Just too likely there. He could be trying to squeeze for thin value against the fish with a hand like pocket tens, pocket jacks, ace, queen, that type of thing. And we just get to put tons of pressure on all of that range. Yeah, when he jams and we 4-bet with ace, king, it sucks. Because we're going to be in a flip or behind most of the time. But we also get to just make him fold a ton of equity as well when he does fold, which is nice. I did contemplate just calling, but we're going to miss too often and then just be forced to check fold, which I didn't want to do. 3-bet the ace queen versus that sizing. Again, this is like a middle position race, so it's less enticing, it's less exciting to do it, but nevertheless versus a 60-cent open, we need to be trying to build a pot a little bit more, try and have the initiative, that type of thing. It's unfortunate that we haven't had chance to like demonstrate that we can get paired with big hands. We're going to call this because it looks like he's really getting after this scrambler, so we're going to call with the king queen. What I would have liked during the videos is to at some point have like some big hands and get paired off with them, just to demonstrate what I already know, which is that despite playing tight you can still get tons of action with your monsters. I'm hoping to demonstrate that, but I'm not going to keep making videos until I do get to demonstrate that. But hoping what we are demonstrating so far is that we're staying out of trouble most of the time in these situations. We're not really like losing any big pots, but I don't think we're preventing ourselves from winning big pots with this style. Now I'd like to win a few big pots either before the end of this video or in the last video, in the next 1 or 2 videos. But if we don't, we just don't. It's not really the end of the world if we don't. But it'd be nice if we could. But this strategy is mainly designed to help encourage players to keep themselves out of trouble. Because that's what happens when you're playing, when you're losing poker play and you play too loose. You just get yourself in trouble way too often by playing hands you just don't need to be playing. So here we're just like making a series of folding all the hands that we don't need to be playing, and then showing that we just stay out of trouble all the time doing that, or most of the time doing that, and then hopefully we still get to win a couple of big pots. It would be nice, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not a great card for us, but we can certainly continue barreling for value from Queen X, etc. If we get raised, it's not the nicest of spots. And we're just going to bet the river again. I just hope he looks it up with Queen Jack, Queen Ace, that type of thing. If we get raised, not sure how I'm going to respond. It would depend on the sizing. But I won't like it, I know that much. Give up with the 6-7 on the 6-7-3 board with the Ace King. Still giving up. That was a Queen or better, I would have bet, but the Jack, I'm just not that into it. So yeah, we're just going to fold. We don't have anything. We're not much over improving. This is, but if the 6 had paired here or the 10 had paired, I would have bet with my flush draw as played. We're not going to bet with the flush draw, but we're probably going to consider check calling if he uses his typical half pot sizing that he's been using. So I'm going to call with the Ace Queen to try and keep Scrambler in. Giving up with the Jack Queen down here. We make the flush on the river. He's capped his range. We're going to go for an overbet. Hope he just looks us up with 2 pairs or a top pair or something. We can rep miss flushes here. We can rep some Jack 10s and things. Once he checks back this flop, we're just going to bet small turn, bet big river. It's going to be the plan. Check the Ace Queen to the razor. He instantly checks back. Going to give him a chance to bet this turn because it's a good bluffing card for him, but we clearly have a strong hand. And we're going to check call and then decide whether to check call or check raise a river. Rivers I won't be check raising is like kings and jacks obviously, but we might check raise some other rivers. I'm going to wimp out here and just call because of the heart on the river. I don't think he's got a ton of flushes in his range, but I just don't think he can call or raise anymore because of the potential of the flush out there. So that's unfortunate because had the river been a brick, we could have check raised there and got called by Ace King quite easily, I think. But it wasn't, so whatever. Can't be helped. And as you can see, we're just chipping away. We're not doing anything outrageous, not doing anything special. Had we not lost the 2 like pots earlier on, like with the kings and the Ace Queen for like pot size bets or whatever, we'd have had a completely smooth run for now, for like 33 minutes of just nice, smooth, stress-free poker. Which is personally just how I like it. We have to squeeze the pocket queens here on table 1 when it gets to us. We're going to make it quite big because we're out of position and we do rep quite strong already when we have this type of hand, when we take this action. People just start bluffing too often in these spots, so if your range is really strong and you're not going to have too many bluffs, there's not as much temptation to try and disguise the strength of your hand by using a smaller sizing. And we're out of position and we want to discourage people from like just peeling super wide and outplaying us post flop. When you're out of position, you kind of want to make pots big quite quickly, especially pre-flop, because then being out of position post flop isn't anywhere near as much of a disadvantage. Wow, we're flopping some good sets today. See, bet the backdoor flush draw and the gut shot on table 2. We get immediately min raised. We're going to call and hope to spike a jack. We'd take a club or a king or a queen as well though. 8 really isn't the card we wanted to see. Particularly not the 8 of offsuits. He bets $1, so we have 2 overs and a good shot. We're just getting the right price to call here, I believe, given that. Are we getting the right price to call? We're just going to pot this turn, given that he checked through on the flop, and we're just going to have to give up, I'm afraid, with the king queen. Didn't work out for us. Never mind. When the ace-5-2 rainbow checks through, it's just not very likely someone's got an ace. But nevertheless, just in case someone is like being a bit scared with some like weak, raggy ace, I'm going to make a full pot size bet. If they're going to call a half pot bet with whatever they've got, when the pot's as small as that, there's a reasonable chance they're just going to call a larger bet. And the pot's just super small. If we want to make a big river value bet, or a big-ish river value bet, we kind of have to build that pot that allows us to make it. So we can't do that if we don't make a big turn bet. Why am I trying to rebuy a table with them? Over chipped. For those of you there who noticed that the bankroll is very small, I only put 150 euros on specifically to make this little mini series. We're now at whatever. What are we at? 51 plus 115, 166. So we've made a tiny bit of money. Seven six suited. You can definitely make a case for folding this if you're a losing player who really struggles playing out of position. But I think it's an open for most of us. Blind versus blind. Yes, Jack, I think we'll play it for a 3-bet if we're going to play it. And turn the twos into a bluff here by betting 2 streets if we need to. When he checks back, when players check back 8 Queen Jack on a monotone flop, they almost never have a strong hand. Now it could be that he's just pot controlling with the Queen or a Jack there. I think we get him to fold a Jack if we bet twice. We'd probably never get him to fold a Queen no matter betting twice or not. But versus his overall range, I think betting twice there is going to certainly show no more profit than trying to check down our deuces. As you can see, I'm c-betting with quite a high frequency using very low sizing. That's a strategy that just works very well as long as you're willing to like fire lots of like double and triple barrels versus people when they cap the ranges. I think it's absolutely fine. Very rare now I make a c-bet of more than half pot. I'm going to try the second barrel here just to get value from gut shots and things, and 5x, things like 5.6, 5.4. Lots of things we can still get some value from. And then probably just check back the river. This doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. But again, I'm not going to pay off like a pot-sized bet on the river with like third pair. If we're getting bluffed there, then we're getting bluffed. It's really not such a big deal. Tempted to jam this river. We lose to sets and that's it, don't we? Pretty hard to make a set. If he has a hand like ace king, ace queen or whatever, then he's going to have a hard time folding it. These games aren't particularly great this time of day on Unibet. I wouldn't choose to play these games if I wasn't making a video series. I struggle on my schedule to find games to play. I have lots of spare time in mornings, but typically that's a pretty rough time to play online poker, which is a shame really, because it's my best time to play. But yeah, it allows me to get lots of other stuff done, allows me to make videos, run coaching sessions, do all the other stuff that I do. I got told off for not defending King 8 suited on my last video versus a small blind open. I'm willing to get told off again for folding the Queen 5 suited versus a small blind open. I just don't think it's necessary. I think, yep, you can do it if you're a skilled post-flop player. It's very necessary. You should absolutely defend those hands. But we are trying to make a video which is encouraging people to be disciplined and to try and avoid post-flop spots that they don't do too well in. So when our opponent check calls, his range is looking to me like pretty much any pair above a 6. Weak kings, strongish queens. And we're just going to like do our overbet thing on the river. If he looks it up with the queen, then good for him. He didn't, he folded. I just think it's like a really, really, excuse me, we're not going to pay this this super large bet. I just think it's a really strong strategy, the like betting small twice with a view to like overbetting tons of rivers with all parts of your range. It's it's a strategy I've been adopting the last couple of weeks, and it's just worked really well. Of course, when it doesn't work, you lose. Like, it's quite a high risk, but there's such a ton of reward to it. The rewards way outweigh the risk. long term, and that's why we have bankrolls. We have bankrolls to absorb when we do like go for the big overbet, shove on the river or whatever, and this is one of the times it doesn't work out. We don't care because we're printing money with the strategy long term, and you know, the times it doesn't work, big deal. It doesn't work. We have the bankroll to absorb it. Given how small we've kept this pot, we can't really fold a pair on the river. An opponent just had check back king deuce 3 times, which is, I'm not sure. I mean, if you're opening king deuce on the button and you're only getting 1 street of value when you flop a king, maybe you're going to be making it hard, you're going to find it hard to show a profit with that open. Who knows? And I get that people have this like really, they're really compelled to like steal constantly. I just never have been and never will be into like opening shit like king deuce off, queen deuce off, queen 5 off. I just genuinely believe it's totally unnecessary to be a winning poker player. Can some guys show profit doing that? Yes, of course they can. I'm not saying it's not profitable for some guys, but for the vast majority of players it's just super marginal and not really necessary in my opinion. We've been squeezed for 2 7s. We're not going to. If we were super deep here, if we were 40 blinds effective, I would call, but we're not. So if we were 40 euros effective, I would call. And call with the king jack versus under the gun using that sizing, and we get squeezed again, which is pretty irritating. But as I said earlier, these games are not good. If you employ the strategy that we're trying to advocate in this video and game select well, I can pretty much guarantee that you will print money at the micro stakes. It won't necessarily prepare you for higher stakes, but it will certainly help you build a bankroll, which is ultimately preparing you for the higher stakes. And if you're losing money, tighten up, game select better. You're just going to have so much, your results will just be better so much quickly. And you don't have to do much else, you know, just like tighten up, practice good game selection, get slightly better post flop or get a lot better post flop with your like stronger hands, either by like getting more value for them or finding ways to get away from them sometimes when it's apparent that they beat, like we did with the kings earlier. And just like play tighter ranges, practice post flop, get better post flop, game select well. It's all you need to do to beat the micro stakes. You don't need to be like reinventing fire. You don't need to be devising really complex 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet ranges and all that stuff. Yeah, people are interested in that sort of shit. It's just completely unnecessary. You can spend your time much better at the micro stakes just by playing more, less time studying, more time playing, but playing with good game selection and with good hand selection. There's no real like super secret skill to beating the micro stakes. Just don't make too many mistakes. Just don't make too many stupid mistakes by playing hands that are like pretty marginal, that maybe even pretty marginal for good players and are probably losing hands for you. Just figure out what hands you're losing money with and stop fucking playing them for the time being. You know, it's just some simple adjustments like that can take players from being losing players to being like decent winning players with some pretty simple adjustments. Poker's nowhere near as complicated as lots of people would have you believe, especially not at the micro stakes when you're game selecting with any kind of like deference. See so many guys that just like sat there grinding out tough Zoom pools. I'm like, well, you're losing week in, week out playing Zoom. You're not making money. nothing's changing in your game. You're not changing the ranges that you're playing. You're not doing anything different. You're just continually doing the same thing. Why are you all of a sudden expecting to just start winning? You need to change something. You need to change the games you play. You need to change the ranges of hands that you're choosing to play pre-flop. Maybe you need to change some of your post-flop strategies. Maybe you're betting too big all the time. Maybe you're not betting enough. Maybe you're betting too much. Who knows? But you have to make changes. You can't just keep churning it out, saying, well, look at me. I'm playing 22/18 with a 5% 3-bet, and I'm still not winning. What is wrong? There's probably still plenty wrong. And the easiest way is to, if you're a 22/18 with a 5% 3-bet, playing Zoom and not making money, there's some very simple adjustments. Play slightly tighter, stop playing Zoom, start making money. It's that simple, really is. Hopefully we can maybe get some action with the aces. Nope. And this is when you're getting walks in big blinds, you're in bad games. And I don't mean that just when we've got aces. In general, if you're in games in cash games where you're getting walks, it typically means you're playing against a bunch of tight players. Which is, I mean, this is a utterly dreadful table. If I was like playing a proper session here, well, I'd probably quit the session by now, because like it just looks like we're playing against the same maybe pool of 10 to 12 regulars with just a couple of fish splashed around. But even though we've been playing for 51 minutes against a bunch of regulars, and we haven't been like placed in too many difficult situations. So imagine if you could just switch out some of these regulars for some fish, and then give ourselves some of the hands that we've had. We've had aces several times, kings a couple of times, we've flopped sets. If you're in good games and you're like getting that kind of card distribution, you're going to print money. The fact that these are just dreadful games is why we haven't made much money, and it's why the title's so apt to. Like, poker is boring. This 3-bet's too small, by the way. Should have made it up to $3, but never mind. €3, sorry. But look, we're just not getting any action. It's not because we're playing too tight. It's just because we're playing a bunch of players who are trying to play relatively good poker. They're not that into just like calling raises pre-flop. They're 3-betting or folding. They're not that into flatting 3-bets. This is why game selection is so important. Not just hand selection, but game selection too. So if you're continually playing poker against relatively competent players, you're going to find it hard to have a decent win rate. And when you look at something like 10-0 Zoom, when you hear people saying that like 4 to 6 blinds 100 is really good. When you hear about 15-0 Zoom, when people at 2.5 big blinds 100 considered somebody who's like a really good Zoom 15-0 Zoom player, really, is that really what you want your poker to be? 2.5 big blinds 100 fucking churning Zoom out, 4 big blinds 100 at Zoom. You just burn out doing that. You just burn out. You've got to play way too many hours to make any kind of reasonable money. The variance involved in that is fucking enormous, and people just burn out. It puts immense pressure on mental strength that most people just aren't equipped to cope with. Game selection is super important. I know this video isn't necessarily, or this mini series isn't necessarily about game selection, but I think given how dull these games have been, given that we're looking around the tables and we've got like DJ Jazzy Jeff, Vanilla C, you know, we've got like some of the same players, and who knows, some of these players may be doing what I'm doing and using different aliases. There's currently like 72 people in the pool. I'd imagine that's probably going to be 15, 16 players at best. The games are absolutely diabolical. But we haven't done too badly. I think we've lost money, have we? What are we up to? 50, 99 plus 120, 170. No, so we've actually, I can't remember what I said we started the session with. Was it 180? We've maybe lost just like €10. I'm not sure. Don't know. Can't remember. But it's been a product of just not getting action on our strong hands because we're playing at a bunch of tables where we're not playing with calling stations. And then just be like, it's just a product of basically playing against semi-competent players that just aren't making lots of mistakes. Which isn't what we want. It's not a situation we want to create for ourselves. And every time you log into a uni bet when there's only, say, 50 or 60 players in the pool, or every time you log in to play Zoom. That's exactly what you're doing. You're creating a situation where all you're doing is trying to push what is probably a very small skill advantage, or maybe even a non-existent skill advantage, against a tough pool. And it just doesn't make any sense, really. It doesn't make any sense from a making money point of view. If you want the intellectual challenge, or you just want the thrill of playing and testing yourself and all that, then it makes sense. But if you want to actually make some money at poker, then playing it regularly against a bunch of players that have got a similar skill set to you, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm not going to continue on this board. We fired the small C bet. We get the 4. If we had a 9 or a king or an ace, I would have bet able to turn, but we get the offsuit 4, so we're just going to give up. And we're still just giving up. And if he just gets to showdown pocket 6 or whatever, then good for him. Get led into on king deuce 9, which is unfortunate. We're just going to have to fold. And he just had the ace jack. Whatever. In fact, I think this might well just be the last in this series, actually, because I don't want to make like another relatively boring video going over the same topics. I think I've covered the points that I wanted to make over the 2 videos. It's unfortunate that we haven't. Were we the pre-flop raise here or not? I can't remember. Looks like we were. Looks like we called from the button. Called from the blinds. It's unfortunate that we haven't managed to like get in some better games with some fishy players and actually get some value for our hands. But I've covered all the topics that I wanted to cover, and it doesn't need to be a long series. And to be frank, I don't think I've got the in me to make like another video like this. Because it's dull for me. But we've made the point that needed to be made. So I think we're going to make this our last video in this series. Just make it a 2 video series. And we'll get back to making some Sky videos. And maybe we'll make some snap videos going forward. I'm going to make quite a big C bet here. Quite a big value bet here, sorry. We might get looked up by some ace highs, by pocket 6s, pocket 5s. That type of thing. We're very surprised if he turns up with like a 10s plus here. So yeah, over the next couple of weeks we might do a couple more Sky videos, either live play over the weekend, or maybe I'll record myself playing and review it again, and then maybe start of August we can think about returning to some snap videos. I haven't made them for ages, for reasons that I will explain when I go back to making them, or if I go back to making them. But yeah, that's going to be the plan for the next few weeks. Also, regular contributor in the YouTube chat, Bongo, has made me a video he'd like me to review. So that's actually going to be the next video that I make. Probably make that Friday morning, I think. So 2 days from now. I'll be reviewing on Bongo's play. So that's going to be interesting. If any of you guys would like me to review your play, just make a video, upload it to YouTube, and send me the link. And I'd be delighted to take a look at it and make a video of it. Try to keep the videos limited to like 30 minutes. If you make them too long, you're just not going to get all your play reviewed. If you make them 30 minutes, I guarantee that I will review the entire video. If you make them longer than 30 minutes, I can't guarantee that. In fact, I might make a separate video just about that, just to encourage people, because that's quite a nice idea for a few weeks. Let's get some more interaction between myself and the people who are kind enough to take the time to watch my videos. Yeah, so yeah, I'll make a video about that tomorrow, or maybe tonight. But we're going to wind it up now. We're going to leave big blind next table at all tables, and we're just going to call it a wrap for the mini series. Scrambler leads out here. We're just going to call with the 10s, knowing to raise. Fire a second barrel with our double gut shot here against break you. Scrambler raises here. I'm probably just going to fold. With a value from 6x, 6-7, that type of thing. Ace river, far from ideal. Hope it doesn't pot here. That would be sad. He bets 133. We can't really raise. It's unfortunate he's chose such a shit bet sizing. We can't really raise here because we want to get value from like 6x or 7x, but he just probably isn't going to call a raise with those hands. So I have to call. He has pocket 8. We win. Shame he led the river there because I would have probably bet much bigger. I'd probably bet around 250 there had he checked to me. So it's a shame he like put the block bet in for the 130, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to call here with the ace king just to try and keep Scrambler in the pot somehow. If there was only like 3 regulars behind, then I would 3-bet the ace king like 100% of the time. But when you have fish behind, like 3-betting hands and forcing them out of the pot really isn't that smart of an idea, because the players we're going to make money from at this table is ideally most often likely going to be Scrambler. So we're forcing Scrambler to fold pre-flop, then our chance of making money at the table are like significantly reduced. So my 3-betting rules are primarily decided by who's to act behind. If it's just good players to act behind, I'll 3-bet much more liberally. If there's any bad players to act behind, then I will almost never 3-bet and much more likely to just call and let the bad players into the pot. Again, if we get raised here, we're probably just going to fold. It's an interesting river because the flush gets there, but we get there with trips. It's normally a spot where against a good player, I would maybe think about betting really big here. And we do anyway. We need to target king, queen, don't we? King, queen, king, 10. I'm going to bet big. And it's going to be, if you jams, we just have to fold because we don't beat anything. Oh, and he had the flush. Never mind. Never mind, didn't work out. We're going to end the series on a low by getting sucked out on by a fish. But, well, whatever. Still think that's a fine bet. Just didn't work out. So yeah, we'll leave it there. We're not going to sit around one table for 5 minutes, just a complete waste of everyone's time. Hope you guys have got something from this little mini series. Any questions about any of the hands I've played or just anything I've said in general, please leave a comment and I almost always reply. Leave it there for now and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.